Okay, guys, Kogi people have finally decided to recall Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan from the Senate. So, according to them, they said that they can, stand without having a representative for 6 months at the Senate. So, they are doing their possible best now to recall the lady from the Senate so that another person will go and represent them. So, and they did it in a trickish way. You understand? They called the Kogi people, they deceived the people, telling them that they are going to empower them, that they should come out in their numbers. So they did, and even signed the papers, thinking that those papers were meant for empowerment, without knowing that they signed papers that was meant to, recall Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan from the Senate. So take a look at what I'm showing. I'm telling you that. Take a look.
We've also seen people take to the street who were allegedly invited for an empowerment scheme, and they were asked to bring their voters card, their BVN and the likes, and they got there. Unfortunately, what they ordered was not what they got. It would seem that they were asked to append their signatures and they wanted to use them as a plot to recall the senator. Now let's take a look at some of the videos of people who were at the location.
Early morning. This early morning, we were informed that we should come for an empowerment. When we get to the seat, we are asked to bring our voter's card and the VIN, the number here. So we now ask why, because we heard that we should come for the empowerment. So they gave us a form to fill. You fill with your VIN and pen your signature. Then most of us will refuse that we cannot do that because we don't know that an empowerment can be done in this way. So we now left the seat.
I will be here for the recall of Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan.
No, sir, we are not. We are here for an empowerment.
But we are not aware about the recall by some group of APC.
No, not at all. No. So we are here for an empowerment. We are not supposed to be here for an empowerment, and we are given an instruction to come with our voter's card. So that was the instruction given to us that we should be here with our voter's card for an empowerment. That's all. No, there's nothing like before. We don't have anything against our senator, for God's sake. So why did
Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan does have a lot of detractors, and they are hell-bent on seeing her downfall. This is very tragic on so many grounds. You want to do a recall process, and then you're being shady about it under the guise of empowerment, giving them money so that they can. It's just. I have no words. I
hope we get to the root of this matter and find out who was behind this. We're not going to make any insinuations. We hope that they get to the matter, that the proper investigation is carried out. I'll get to find out the person or persons behind this, so they can be exposed for the fraud that they are. Recall that Senator Natasha was suspended a day after she submitted a petition against the Senate President, Senator Godswill Akpabio. Ever since then, Natasha will do anything but keep quiet. She's been speaking and speaking quite loudly. Not only did she disclose this on television, the sexual allegations or sexual harassment allegations on television, she's also spoken to other media outside Nigeria. We've seen her grant interview to the likes of BBC, Sky News, and her voice has been unwavering in telling her story and speaking her truth. And again, he that has clean hands has nothing to fear, he that...
Exactly. Olive, one other thing that video exposes, just the level of poverty in Nigeria, the level politicians will go to weaponize poverty. You give a human being 2,000 naira and then they would give you a Commonwealth for the next 4 years, or force you to do things that you might not willingly understand. So they're taking advantage of ignorance, lack of education, and also the poverty in the land, which is quite tragic, to say the least.
It's really, really sad to see this, and I mean, this is
to evaluate the actions she has taken so far and how it could potentially undermine the genuine efforts of other female politicians in the zone. It is on this premise that we, the Kogi Central Women Development Association, denounces her as our senator, demand an apology from her, as we resolve to mobilize other groups in Kogi Central Senatorial District to commence the process of recalling Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan from the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan has clearly failed to prioritize or consider the collective interest of the people of Kogi Central, whose voices by this singular misstep will be silenced for the next 6 legislative months, which is equivalent to 12 calendar months. After her suspension, there have been no formal communication between the Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, and the people of Kogi Central Senatorial District. Not even a town hall meeting as what the routine was when she was seeking to support and vote of the constituents.
Confidence in her because of her gross misconduct in the Senate that led us to a 6-month suspension where Kogi Central will not be represented at the National Assembly, the Senate arm. So we have come to recall her back so that we can have a representative in the Senate, because as a people we cannot afford not to have a representative in the Senate arm for another 1 year. So we are here to tell INEC to please follow the constitutional process for a recall so that her recall process can begin. That's why we're here.
Okay, so have you submitted or?
We've submitted our petition. It's been received. All other documents have been received. This is the acknowledgement copy of the petition.
Is it the entire constituency or just a group of people? Under which platform are you presenting?
Okay, it is a concerned Kogi youth and women.
Yes. And who is controlling this?
Talking about bankroll is a personal business, or it's a personal thing. We are members of our constituents, and we are saying we don't want her anymore because you cannot afford not to have a representative. So nobody is bankrolling. Well, we are the one that voted her, and we are saying we don't want her anymore. So we're not. Nobody is bankrolling. Nobody is having any personal issue with her. It is just what it is. The game is the game.
Okay. When you say you come to submit petition,
yes.
Have you? Is it a process that maybe you have collected the signature already, or you're about to do that? What are the things you have done already?
Okay, thank you very much. We all know the INEC rules. You cannot submit a petition without having to go and get signatures of registered voters, and that's why we're now saying, as a people, we are recalling her back from the Senate because we have gotten what it takes to recall her back from the Senate.
Like how many number of registered voters?
We have 488,000 registered voters from Kogi Central, and as I speak to you right now, we have more than 250,000 voters that have signed for her recall.
Okay. So what was the response from INEC?
Like you know, INEC is an institutional body, and its constitution is binding them, and as such, they will have to follow due process. So they will get back to us and they will do their job.
Your name, ma'am?
My name is Somali Charity JC.
Okay, guys, the thing is here. What is going on between Senate President and Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, I think, is a script in order to divert Nigerians' attention from the main thing. That's the thing. They are just acting up in order to divert Nigerians' attention so that this Tinubu regime will be, we won't even know when it's even 4 years. I'm telling you, seriously, they are trying their possible best to keep people's attention from the main thing. Because if you are to check, the first time after having issue with Ababio at the Senate, what Natasha did was to go to Arise News, and after laying complaints, after telling Nigerians about the sexual harassment on Arise News, it's not even up to 24 hours. Senator Ababio's wife came out to the media and start, defending her husband. I think that this thing is deliberate. They did it in order to divert Nigerians' attention because so many people have already started coming out, to complain about the government and how bad things are in Nigeria currently. So they are trying to make sure that they use all the tricks they have. You guys are familiar that Tinubu is the owner of media house. So they are good in all this. Like, they are master in handling and as in manipulating media and all that. So all these things that you are seeing, even the state of emergency they declared in River State, all these things is just to divert Nigerians' people's attention from the main thing that is going on. So I'm going to show you guys a video of where one trending video of where Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, when she was trying to present something at the Senate. So she was like doing something, you understand, doing something to seduce Senate President Ababio. Just take a look.
Pardon me, Mr. President, I was actually engrossed in the discussion that concerns the Senate with my brother, distinguished Senator Akashiki.
Distinguished colleagues, she's hereby pardoned that she was engrossed in a discussion with Senator Akwashiki, so she was no longer with the Senate.
So let me allow you guys to see reactions from Nigerians, concerning this particular trends now. So I would also like to hear your thoughts on the comment section. It's very important. I like to hear your own opinion, what you think about what is going on, and all that. I really love to hear what you think on the comment section below. And also, don't forget to like this video so that YouTube recommend it to others. Share it with your friends and family. And
a thought has been coming to my mind. All these interviews that Natasha has been granting abroad, how come they have not asked her about Reno Omokri? That story, that thing that happened. I just saw a letter now that Reno is writing, to ask them that how come they have not asked. This has been on my mind for a week. I'm like, it's simple. It means that all this are paid for. One, yeah, oftentimes that's what happens when you are the one that goes out to solicit for media attention. You tell a media house you want to be interviewed. They, just like here we call it brown envelopes. Abroad it happens. You want the publicity, you want them to take you. So they've been funded on the ground, they've been given some money on the ground, allegedly giving money on the ground, and then they'll take you on. And then they avoid the obvious question. If someone is saying this, you don't hear them saying, you have said this about this, you have said that about that. All the questions we expect to hear, they are even more thorough than we are. But anytime Natasha is on, the only thing they are asking is what exactly happened. They said it's because of misconduct, gross misconduct. Yes, it's because you said this and that, and then she will say no, it's not because of that, it's because of something else and all that, and that ends it. No one is asking, but how come you have accused like 3-4 people? How come you accused this particular person and he brought evidence against you, and then you were said to have paid underground? And since that thing happened, she has not opened her mouth so far to talk about the Reno Omokri case, to even attack him or say something about the fact that he has come out again this time around to talk not once, not twice now, about the fact that she accused him wrongly, and that when she accused him, she paid him out of court settlement. She has not mentioned it. It means it happened. We all know it happened because we saw it play out live, and she deleted all the evidences. But my problem now is, what I'm asking is, how come these international organizations who can Google and find all that there is to know on social media or Google and find it there somewhere, they are not asking those questions? It's obvious. These are paid for, and then if you're going to be paying this kind of the caliber of people, the caliber of networks that are carrying her, then I don't blame Nigerian government for beginning to say that she's been sponsored internationally. Some people who like to cause mayhem in other people's countries, they probably have a hand in it already, or else this is going to be costing her so much.
My dear people, why are we really knocking our heads on the wall for these issues, Natasha and Akpabio, Senate President? Why are we knocking our heads on the wall? Now listen to the analysis. If all of you were there, listen to some analysis given by the barrister Dele Farotimi. Now listen carefully. In a house where Senator Natasha was sworn in, the very first day they were doing their deliberation, a newcomer put up her hands to want to speak, not sitting down to watch and learn and know what they are doing before knowing how to come in. No, the very first day, over Sabi housewife, the very first day she put up her hand to speak, to deliberate, to take part in the issue, and Senate President Akpabio recognized her because he's beginning to like her. Recognized her for the first day. Akpabio said so. He said it, and there are testification to it, testimony to it. Now, recognizing her, and she spoke. Then apart from that, some other kind gestures have been going on. When they were doing their looting and sharing, the women don't shout. It is when Akpabio insults them, that is when they begin to shout. Now, all of the opposition members, those parties, members of opposition in the house, when all of the tariff are being increased, tariff for utility bills are being increased, did you hear any opposition fighting for you and I? Did you hear any of them? They are all compromising. They were compromising. So it is when the Senate president pinches them, that is when they learn how to cry. That is when they start to cry out. Now, there are some other kind gestures given to Natasha. She was not crying out, like making her the chairperson of a committee group. Now, she was not crying out. Nobody heard of it. There are other gestures being given to her. Kind gestures from Senate President. She was not shouting. But it is the time when Senate President said, okay, come, let me touch you. That is where the problem started. Now, you did not agree to the advances the Senate President is making to you. Now he is angry and is beginning to pinch you. Why don't you play maturity? When he said, go away from this seat and go to that corner where there is no speaker. Yes, you will kindly go there. If you are mature enough, you will go there. Over Sabi housewife. You know where the man is coming from, that he has been kind to you, and this time around you are failing and refusing his advances and he's getting angry. Then you will just maintain, if you are a mature person as Natasha I'm speaking to. So it is when the men begin to pinch the women in the house, that is when they begin to cry out. So why are you and I knocking our heads on the wall in their matters? Because when they are doing their compromise and sharing and looting and all of that, we are not there. So when it comes to the issue, we begin to shout, wasting our saliva, burning our data, and begin to do all of that. We don't need it, my dear. My dear people out there, we don't need it. They know how to do their stuff. Just let's leave them and let them do their thing. They know how to.
All that plan or not the plan. I get my own answer, the original criminal. All that plan, you, them like them, sir. Just like, oh, good morning. Hi. Hey, you can't blame me. I have to try my best to. I'm listening to my own scripture too. You listen to Abba Fella, should them be good leaders or shadow criminals. Our rulers, they like us or they like themselves. Then be good leaders or shadow criminals. All that plan or no plan. I get my own answer, the original criminal. All plan. Please go and listen to Fella just like that, eh? Just go and listen to Fella. Good morning, everybody. Woo! What a week that was. You know, I'm beginning to suspect that after a while, if something drastic does not happen, if something does not happen to change the trajectory of our country, it might very well be that the only way I'll be able to write going forward is in the manner of the absurd, when you write perhaps satires, because it's almost impossible to treat our situation with any degree of rationality without descending into insanity. It's just maddening. But hey, that is not the week that was. That is our everyday reality. So about this week, really, what I want to do is talk about the week that was. Oh wow, I don't even know where to start from. Should I start with the French one that says "L'état c'est moi"? You know what that means? L'état c'est moi. I am the state. Yay. My people, I'll remind you that Germany was a democracy when Hitler took over that country. And if you've bothered to read Egbo Festo's Adidayo today, you would come to understand that it was the Malawian parliament that actually passed the bill that turned Banda into the life president. Hey, the week that was. Let me tell you what happened in the week that was. We were told in very clear terms, very, very clear, no more pretense, no stories. Nigeria is now a dictatorship. We've had aspiring dictatorship, to be certain. I assure you, verily, verily, that if Brother Babangida had had his way, he would certainly have been a life president. But even in the age of the military, there were checks, you know. Society still had norms. Our society has not collapsed. Some people still had voices. They were busy advocating. Now, they are reprobating and approbating. Truth is no longer truth. It has become subjective. Can you hear the loud silence in our land? All our erudite men and women of God, the pastors and imams, all the ones that were speaking loudly, Lord have mercy, one would have thought that Jonathan, if you think back now and you go back to the years of Jonathan and you remember all the people who are vibrating, all of a sudden, truth is no longer truth. Or when they presume to speak it, they speak a twisted form of the same truth. Lord have mercy, who would have thought that we would ever find ourselves in a situation where the president, whose own legitimacy is constantly questioned, would take the Constitution, copiously cite the section he presumes to be working with, and go ahead and do the exact opposite. And then in the very public space, you will witness let me be very clear. I had no positive expectation of our Senate or the reps in relation to this or anything else for that matter. But I had imagined that based on the extent of impunity that was deployed, that the average one amongst them would understand that it is in their own enlightened selfish interest. Forget about me and you, we are their victims, right? It's either you are aware or you're unaware, but we are the victims. But you would think that turkeys will not vote for Christmas. These turkeys in the National Assembly just voted for Christmas. Didn't they see Lagos? Did they look? Do they understand the fact that what they have actually done is that every one of them have just shown every one of us that they are inconsequential? A man blatantly and flagrantly urinates on the fraud that has sustained this lie, and all you lot could do, well, maybe a bit, a few one of them here and there impotently wailing because they are jostling, knowing that they can't afford to be found on the wrong side of this history. But beyond that, what has happened? Oh yeah, I'm very quick usually to knock the Nigerian Bar Association. Well, Alaji Osigwe, if you keep doing what you're doing right now, perhaps you'll still find a few of us who would stop being so ashamed to be associated with our profession. Thank you very much. Thanks. At least somebody spoke. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. MBA is not just, everything is always about leadership. It was that same MBA that was led in the years when Ford were coming first. That same MBA was largely silent for a long time. But hey, now when you wake, now you day break. You know, you guys have this funny proverb, and it just got shown fully in the week that was. They say that ìlú tí kò sí òfin, ẹ̀ṣẹ̀ kò sí. The land where the law does not rule, there can be no crimes. That is the Yoruba proverb. And I realized that they probably had modern day Nigeria in mind, because Yoruba land did not exist inside this perversion. It existed as a viable entity on its own before this perversion was foisted on all of us. But that it has remained a perversion is our own fault, not the fault of those who coupled us together, gave us all the contradictions to fight with. are these contradictions beyond our capacity? But the week that was so full of, well, it was full of a lot of distractions, but I think the most important thing we need to pay attention to in the week that was is that we're dealing with a dictatorship. This is not a situation that evolved yesterday. And this is why Festus Adedayo's column in today's Tribune is of particular importance to anyone who is trying to have an understanding of the reflexes and impulse of this administration. You're not dealing with the typical Nigerian politician who just wants to steal money. Now, you're dealing with a malevolent force, not just a man, it's a mindset that has little or no respect, in fact, zero respect for rules. I'm not talking just laws, for rules. The rules of engagement are constantly fluid. It's like when you're dealing with the 48 laws of power, if you've read it, it talks about becoming formless. That is the level of all-permeating evil that has overtaken our country. And it's not about one man. It's always easy to point at Bola Ahmed Tinubu, but you forget that there is a structure that holds the system. He has merely inherited a structure, but that structure was always susceptible to criminality, to impunity, and it has always been criminal and full of impunity. Bola Ahmed was not the one in the office when people were murdered in cold blood at Lekki Toll Gate. It wasn't him, but it was the system. All that has happened is that a man whose temperament fits the system has taken over power. Obasanjo is a learner where this man is. You better believe that. Obasanjo still has pretensions of civility. This one, not send anybody. You better get that into your heads. Good morning, everybody. For those of you who are coming on time, might not be a bad idea. Might not be a bad idea to go take a look at what transpired in the last 10 minutes in the week that was. This morning, I'd like us to talk about Nigeria and its many shadows. Heard me? Yeah. Nigeria and its many shadows. You know, when you stand in any space where there is light, you're bound to have shadows. And shadows are reflective of the fact that there is light in the space. There is a song by Fela called Just Like That. In one of the many questions and answer back and forth, audience feedback flow, like the chorus part, he started asking some questions. He said, our leaders, them like us or them like themselves? Are they good leaders or shadow criminals? You know, I grew up on Fela's music, and every time I'd come across that refrain, shadow criminals, it had constantly left me thinking, and this is my pattern. For years I might be pondering a particular word or a particular phrase, peeling the different layers of revelation that you'd find when you consider things in a deeper fashion. If he was calling them shadow criminals, I began to wonder. And then, you know, by the time you become a Pentecostal Christian, you find the more gifted orators who break down concepts for you. So one of the pastors under whose administration had sat in the past used to talk about the shadows of Christ, and he would use biblical figures like Joseph, and I think at some point Moses, as examples of these shadows. And then the more I looked at our situation in Nigeria, where we have a judiciary that does not give justice, I realized that we have a shadow judiciary. I look at our schools, they don't deliver any knowledge of value or hardly deliver any knowledge of value these days. And I realize that we have shadow learning, shadow education. Our religion does not teach morals. We have shadow religions. The same Christianity that transformed South Korea. Because it's easy to talk about the laws of our original spirituality as one of the reasons why we have become as vagabonds and unable to understand our connection to the land of our birth, regardless of the name by which it is called, or to be able to recognize the humanity of our neighbor just in understanding that because they spoke a different language does not render them any less human than we are. We've become shadow humans. In Yoruba language, the word police means Olopa. Olopa means the person who is holding the king's staff, the insignia of the king's authority, and the sight of whom you equate with the presence of the king. So his word literally is the king's word. But the Olopa in my own country, the police in my own country, is not different from the criminal in most cases. He is either endorsing criminality or is part and parcel of the criminal action, or is shielding the criminal, or is providing cover for the criminal. We have a shadow democracy where we have political parties, but they have no ideology. We have elections, but our votes do not count. Shadow democracy. We have laws, yeah. We have laws. I think one of them is the Section 305 that was used in Rivers. We have laws. I assure you we have laws. Even the Attorney General pronounced the law. It just does not appear to flow from the lie that we call, oh yeah, we have a constitution. So even our constitution is a shadow constitution. Oh, I forget. We are a capitalist, we are a shadow society. Oh, we have banks. Oh yeah, and in most other parts of the world, banks buy money when they take your deposit and they sell it when they grant loans. So banks exist everywhere else in the world to buy and sell money. Okay. But Nigerian banks do not appear to sell money to anybody who needs money. So we have a shadow, but they declare huge profit all the time. Oh yes, I forget. They are doing everything but banking, but they are declaring huge profit. So we have a shadow banking industry. Oh, okay. So if everything endures in shadows, what is the substance of our country? If our rulers are shadow criminals, not my invention, that was Fela, that was at least, I think that was during the Second Republic, so that was at least like 40 years ago. If they were shadow criminals 40 years ago, well, we had a shadow democracy at that time as well. So shadow, everything is still shadowing everything. So we have a shadow democracy with shadow criminals or real criminals running the democracy. Because I understand that when you say that a place is governed by law, you're saying that there are set rules by which the society is governed. But this one, the Attorney General said the law is what. Okay, so the law is what Tinubu says the law is. Remember that thing that we were talking about, l'état c'est moi, I am the state. A lot of people will tell you that it was Napoleon that said that. It wasn't Napoleon. Don't worry. What Napoleon said was that all authority is in the throne. And what is the throne? If all authority is on the throne, who is the throne? Do you understand? This wooden frame covered with velvet, I am the throne. That was Napoleon's declaration, and I would be surprised if that wasn't what Fagbemi was telling us as well. L'état c'est moi. So we have a shadow presidency, but an imperial dictatorship. Oh, by the way, he did tell the others to note that their own future might pass through rivers. And it wouldn't surprise me if we end up with the rivalization of Oshun as well. So, question I'm now asking us is this. If we have no substance to pass on to our children, if we have a shadow state, because you can't call this a real country, even if it's going to be an authoritarian society, there must still be respect for whatever rule. Okay, let's try this. In classic Nigerian education, they will teach you that China is a dictatorship. But China still gets governed by law. Even the chairman of the Communist Party still observes the laws. Even though he might, as Napoleon, speak to the fact that he is the one sat in the throne and he is the throne, the chairman of the Communist Party, I'm not sure he would unilaterally award contracts to a company in which his son has interest that is known to all, owned by his friend. That does not happen in a state. A state is governed by rules, by norms. But we have entered a phase where the law is what Tinubu says it is. And when this is happening, you would imagine that a normal society, not a shadow one, a normal society would have societal guardrails. You know, guardrails like civil society organizations, faith-based organizations, professional bodies. But where are these voices? The former heads of state, oh yes. Good luck, Ebele Jonathan. I don't know what it is that has come over that man in recent times, but did you hear what he had to say about rivers? That is the first time I have heard that man speak publicly in a manner that demands respect. Painful thing to say is, those who had the capacity to have laid better examples, on the back of which they may have stood and spoken truth in this season. But again, I guess the dean of past presidents decided that Jonathan is the only one with the credibility to deliver the rebuke that they sought to deliver. But if only when they had the opportunity. they had left enduring legacies that would have assured that what Bulaba is doing today would be viewed as the perversion that it is. But what has happened? Because of what you had done during your presidencies, you have normalized the madness. And what has happened today is that a man that is by far more suited to impunity than any one of you is in power today. The third term that Obasanjo dreamt of, this one will get third, fourth, fifth, and God knows how many, unless the people unite and determine the fate of this country. So, no societal gatherings, we have shadow religions, shadow civil organizations, shadow human rights activists, shadow pro-democracy activists, shadow, everything shadows, shadow citizens. In my time when we were in the university, something like this will happen. The universities will be up in arms. From students to university, the entire ecosystem, the larger society itself would have been outraged. But what has happened to us? It's become a shadow society, normative collapse. Nothing outrages us anymore. And those who are outraged, we are the shadows. We make noise. Everything shadow. Where is our press? These days, the only voices you hear, the refiles of these words. When Dr. Ruben Abati was busy vibrating about the violation of the Constitution, I was looking at him and I was asking myself, what about all the other violations that you had either helped to explain or ignored? Everything is graduated. Evil pushes bit by bit, and when you continue to mollycoddle, explain, tolerate, adjust for evil, eventually it overpowers and you don't. You know, I spoke about it the other time. When you sit too close or you live too close to the public toilet or to the refuse dump, you stop smelling the damn thing after a point, and this is what has happened to us. We tolerated evil, explained evil for so long. It has overtaken us. We've become a shadow society. Nothing outrages us any longer. And the worst atrocities are being pushed through every day. A young lady spoke in a shadow society. Those who should be speaking in reinforcement of her rights, they were the ones who were busy asking her to keep quiet. Does Lagos not smell? If your noses haven't become acculturated to the madness that we live with, would you not know? What did she say that is not true? But that is the shadow society that we have become. Shadow police. And have you guys noticed? You'll be at the bus stop, at the traffic light, and right there in front of the policemen, last man, everybody, last man, lawman, lima, this one, that one, you see buses. They'll shout right in front of you and they'll go. Meanwhile, you, tax-paying citizen, you wouldn't dare move. The guy has purchased a bit of impunity from the shadow police, and then in the shadow society you are living in, the shadow laws no longer apply to him. Have you thought about that? In a shadow democracy, an Akpabio accused of sexual predation is still sitting in judgment against his accuser. That can only happen in a shadow. But if it wasn't a shadow democracy, how would Akpabio have gotten into that Senate in the first place? So while some of us were busy campaigning, running up and down the place, some people had determined that Akpabio must be in the Senate so that he can be the Senate president, so that all kind of anomalies, all kind of, Lord have mercy, evil would be clapped for. They are singing on your mandate, we shall stand. Shadow democracy. Look, in a true democracy, the practitioners and administrator would understand that everything functions on predictable order. And this is why I've often argued that you cannot call this country a jungle. A jungle functions on predictable order. Even when there is dysfunction in nature, it is still functional. You might have droughts, But the drought would eventually turn around and become part and parcel of the tapestry of nature. But in our own country, nothing is exactly as it should be. Everything are shadows. How can you plant shadows and reap institutions? Shadows. You are appointing justices. The appointive process has assured that the person who is appointing is the one who has the discretion to determine. Your Judicial Service Commission, I believe, they are appointees of your CJ. How do they become checks on his powers? He appoints whoever he cares and he appoints whoever is instructed. So you find children of judges appointed not even on merit in most cases. How can you have a judicial system when you have a shadow appointing system? How? You are in a Senate that votes billions all the time, but they cannot have an electronic voting system. What kind of voting system? Okay, how do we have a voting system when even our own votes, the ones who are supposed to have sent the ones that we didn't vote to the Senate, our votes do not count. So why should the vote of those who are there? But the rules, see, I really don't have much to say to you this week. But I need us all to understand the seriousness of our situation. We have become a shadow society. No substance. When they were going to do the Natasha one, his was sufficient. We're talking about the constitutional requirements for 2/3. You don't bother to check whether you have quorum, you don't bother, and then you are doing, and all of us, look, there is enough about Nigeria to make one lament from morning till night, and you will not find a repetition for the lamentation. But it is very critical, see, shadow country. NEPA just struck, and I've been bandy, and NEPA just struck. Let me just put it this way. All they have done is to quicken my exit. There wasn't much left to say to you anyway, beyond the fact that there is a critical need for each and every one of you to understand that you are either going to have to demand electoral reforms which may not even be of any use again in this situation, or begin to get ready to occupy the streets in one way or the other. I swear to God, there is no way we can vote our way out of this one based on the existing system. I wish I can give you some hope this morning, but the only hope I can give you exists within you, is not extraneous to you. If we don't do something substantial, our children will inherit this mess. I grew up shouting, "Up NEPA." If my children have had to live in a space where they would have to shout "Up NEPA," they too will be shouting "Up NEPA." Fact of the matter is, nothing has changed. The only thing that has become substantial is evil. And if we don't do something about it, that evil will overtake us. The declaration you heard disguised as Section 305 is one and only one thing. L'État, c'est moi. Tinubu is the law. And yes, before I take off, let me just say this. All the hegemons who gathered together to bring Tinubu to power, who subverted the law and the will of the people, you will all regret what you did. He has room for only one, himself and his own. El-Rufai learned a little too late in the day. Others will learn perhaps sometime at greater cost than they ever envisaged. It's been a pleasure being with you today. I hope I'll see you again next Sunday. And let's be clear, because when purpose is unknown, abuse becomes inevitable. I do not enjoy belly aching, like I've construed my duty as being to wake you up to the fact that you have to do something. What you elect to do is entirely up to you. I might offer a path. You may not like my path, listen to others as well, but find a path in the clear understanding that something has to change or all will be lost very quickly. We just stumbled into a dictatorship. Enjoy the rest of your week. God bless you. Bye-bye.